Hello aspirants. Looking at current affairs for 29th July, the news items picked up from the Hindu newspaper are these 14. We'll look at them in detail. The first one, Pakistan Supreme Court removes Sharif from office. So this is regarding Pakistan Prime Minister Nawaz Sharif. So he had his name in the Panama Papers indirectly. His family members and relatives were named in this leak. Panama Papers leak, you should know about that. We'll discuss about it too. So in this, the case is going on against him and the Supreme Court of Pakistan has disqualified him from being the Prime Minister of the country now. So this is a case of undeclared assets. And a case of corruption has been registered against him on the orders of the Pakistan Supreme Court against him and his children. So this is the crisis going on in Pakistan presently. It has also, the court has said that this case of corruption cases against him should be disposed of quickly under the supervision of a Supreme Court judge. So also the Attorney General has said that he is disqualified for life. So he has been Prime Minister of Pakistan 3 times, Mr. Nawaz Sharif, and now this disqualification has been announced. So this is the whole background of Prime Minister Nawaz Sharif through, and this is regarding the Panama Papers case. The Panama Papers is discussed here. So this was an expose which came from Panama. Panama is a country in Central America or above South American continent, you can see here. So this Panama is known as a tax haven, means here the taxation laws are mild. You can say they are not very strict. There are no stringent taxation laws in the sense that even taxation rates are low. So if you show your income in your own country, you'll be having to pay high tax rates, say of 30% or so. But if you disclose your income in Panama, the taxation rates would be very low, near zero or very low. So that is why the billionaires and the rich people from all across the globe had their money invested in here in Panama. So there was this law firm actually, Mossack Fonseca. So this is a Panama-based law firm from where this entire leak has initiated. So this Mossack Fonseca was a law firm in Panama which specialized in creating offshore companies. So if you have money, you don't want to reveal it in your own country. Of course, all tax havens have secrecy laws too. So those countries will not show you. They have no obligation to show another country that there is income from particular national from particular country in their own country. So what this Mossack Fonseca law firm did, it created offshore companies in Panama for these investors, and it was like shell companies which we have discussed quite often. So those are like shells, just for the namesake. So a company which is shown where investment is being made, there may not be actual functioning, may or may not be taking place, but an investment shown as such. So that your money, the entire legal aspect of it is taken care of Mossack Fonseca. You pay in your money and of course you will get your returns. So that's how it is. So this Mossack Fonseca law firm's documents, 11.4 million documents were released on 2,14,488 offshore companies which it had created from 1977 to 2015. So this was the leak in 2015 which took place from an anonymous source to a German newspaper, and from there it went into the hands of various international media and organizations in various countries all across the globe, and then they were published. So here you can see there were around 12 heads of states, including 6 which were currently in power, including one, Mr. Nawaz Sharif, we are seeing here. They were named directly or indirectly. So they may not directly have an account, but their children have an account, or their spouse having an account, or some relative having an account. So they were linked to these accounts. Even many senior politicians, civil servants, companies, banks, even law firms had the accounts here. So this is the whole detail of this Panama Papers leak, as it is called. Also it is called Mossack Fonseca leak. So some prominent people involved here internationally are shown here. Mr. Nawaz Sharif, about whom the news is there. Even Vladimir Putin's name has come here. Xi Jinping of China has been named. Even former British Prime Minister David Cameron. So these are the details. The next is Dovell urges BRICS to step up fight against global terrorism. So this is regarding BRICS, which is a 5-member grouping comprising of Brazil, Russia, India, China and South Africa. So this BRICS grouping had its NSA meet. We had discussed this for the last few days, National Security Advisors meet, and Indian National Security Advisor Mr. Ajit Doval was also here. And on the sidelines of this meet, he has said that international leadership in countering terrorism should be initiated from BRICS. So BRICS should take the lead in this. Also, Chinese President Xi Jinping has stated that BRICS, having completed its first 10 years now, for the coming decade, it should focus on 3 areas. And the 3 areas which he highlights are security, communication, coordination, financial cooperation, and cultural exchange. So these are the 3 key areas highlighted by him. And these are the details regarding BRICS shown here, the 5 nations involved. There are 5 major emerging national economies. The term actually coined originally was BRIC. Later it was that South Africa was also included in this. So this BRIC term was coined in 2001 by Jim O'Neill, the then chairman of Goldman Sachs. And now after that, when in 2010 South Africa was also added, it became BRICS. So this foreign ministers meetings earlier took place, then full-scale diplomatic meetings started from 2009. And since 2010, it has become BRICS. Then the next news item is priority not right in DMF implementation, CSE. So CSE is Center for Science and Environment, which is a New Delhi-based advocacy group, and it has come up with a report in which it shows that despite having highest collections under the DMF is District Mineral Foundation. So this District Mineral Foundation has established in every state at district level. So here the highest collection as such is from Odisha. So in Odisha, we are seeing that it's having the highest collection in the country amongst all the states. Still, in the priorities are not right for fund utilization. So funds should be utilized for those people who are affected by mineral activities. So tribals generally who are living in these regions, they should be facilitated through this. But it is seen, this report is showing that how the money which has been collected in Odisha's 6 districts, which are resource rich, like Kanjal, Sundargarh, Jharsuguda, it has shown that vital areas like healthcare and welfare of women and children has been completely ignored. So these sections, it fares very poorly. Still, the allocation which has taken place for this purpose is very low. So you can see the details here provided. Konja, it says it has the highest share of DMF budget. 33% is allocated for drinking water, but the kind of work the money has been allocated for is poorly conceived. It says nearly 80% of drinking water budget is for tube wells. So tube wells, the report says these will not work well in these regions. These are mining areas where water contamination is already very high, and tube wells are not the best solution for clean drinking water. Also, it says that in other districts like Jharsuguda, here the budget allocation which has been done under DMF, the maximum allocation has been done for urban centers. This is despite the fact that 60% of the people live in rural areas. And 91% of the drinking water budget has been allotted to municipalities, not to panchayats. So this is again what is being highlighted, that how DMF is being utilized. Also, it says that about 90% of Kyonjar's 60 crore health budget, 90% of this has been earmarked for a medical college in Kyonjar town. So this is how they are utilizing the money. Again, in Jharsuguda also, more than 92% of medical budget is for a cancer hospital. So of course, this will be in cities, in urban areas, and this is not going to directly benefit the population in the rural areas for whom it is to be utilized. So bringing in facilities closer to them, for them, specially for them, is what is the basic purpose of District Mineral Foundation. We'll discuss about this also. So you can see the DMF, the report's leader is saying here, the writer is saying that DMF should focus on strengthening human resource capabilities in the mining areas instead of diverting money for infrastructure improvements, especially in constructions and in urban areas and towns. So here, this is the details regarding District Mineral Foundation too. This is very important. You should know about it. This is a statutory body which as such, and these are in every district. So District Mineral Foundations have been established as statutory bodies by state governments through a notification, and they have been provided legal status as such under the Mines and Minerals Development and Regulation Act of 1957 as amended in 2015. So since 2015, they have been given the statutory legal status, and it's mandatory to establish them, right? And this act which has been passed in March 2015 has come into effect retrospectively. That was also controversy which we have discussed earlier. So this amendment came into effect from Jan itself, Jan 2015 here. So this amendment, you can see it's asked for DMFs in all districts in the country affected by mining related operations. So every mining leaseholder will have to pay a fraction of royalty. So mining leases, when the licenses for mining are awarded as such, they have to pay a royalty to the government. So royalty is already paid, but a percentage of the royalty as an extra amount should also be paid by the miners to this district mineral foundation. So a maximum it can be 30%. So 30% of the royalty has to be paid into the DMF. So this is the mandatory provision as such through which district mineral foundation generates its fund also, and this DMF is objective is to work for the interest of the benefits of the persons and areas affected by mining related operations. So this is the purpose of DMF and how the fund comes in. And then related to this, there's also a scheme which the central government launched. This is Pradhan Mantri Khanij Kshetra Kalyan Yojana. So though DMF functions at district level and it's under the control of the state government, but this scheme by the central government launched in September 2015 is talking of utilizing the funds generated by DMF only for this scheme. So at the central level, this scheme is for welfare of people affected by mining related operations. So objective here you can see it is for development and welfare projects in mining areas, and also to minimize, mitigate the adverse impacts during and after mining on the environment, health and the people here, and also to ensure long-term sustainable livelihoods of the people here affected in the mining areas. High priority the scheme talks for water supply, drinking water supply, healthcare, sanitation, education, skill development, women and child welfare. Even disabled and aged have to be taken care of. It says that the 60%, at least 60% of the funds should be used for these purposes. Remaining, it says balance fund can be used for other purposes like roads, railways, irrigation, etc. So this is the scheme. Here you can see the percentage as such is also mentioned. So it is saying that the royalty, the percentage of royalty which has to be paid is 30% of royalty for those mining leases which have been executed before 12th January 2015, before the amendment came into effect, and after all mining leases after that, contribution is 10% of the royalty paid. So this is it. So this gives you the details about DMF. So 80% of mineral riches of India found in tribal regions. So though minerals are excavated from them, but the people here are affected even by displacement and environmental hazards in this region. And that is why this scheme also has been initiated and a provision has been made through amendment to Mines and Minerals Development Act. Then the next news item is Supreme Court rejects abortion plea of 10-year-old. So a 10-year-old rape victim, she has been asked to continue with her pregnancy. Her fetus is 32 weeks old now. So out of 40, 32 weeks are already done. So the medical board as such has given its viewpoint, medical panel has given its viewpoint to the Supreme Court that abortion will endanger the life of both the girl, the young girl, and even the fetus. So that is why the Supreme Court has given order to continue with the pregnancy. And it has also suggested that a permanent medical board should be set up across states so that women, especially child rape victims, could receive expedient access to medical care. Because under the Medical Termination of Pregnancy Act of 1971, the provisions are that if the pregnancy goes beyond 12 weeks, then post that up to 20 weeks, the viewpoint of the medical practitioner as such is required before abortion, and after 20 weeks it's not allowed except in specific cases, and those specific cases are looked into by the Supreme Court, by the judiciary, based on the viewpoints given by a medical panel. So that's what the Supreme Court is saying, that since number of cases are coming up, and here time is very important because with each passing time the weeks go ahead. So that is why it's asking that there should be consideration given to this viewpoint, the idea that permanent medical boards should be set up across states. So women can access medical care expediently and cases can be resolved quickly. Also an amendment to this act is pending that we'll discuss as well too. So here you can see, so beyond 20 weeks, or the Medical Termination of Pregnancy Act bars abortion if the fetus has crossed 20-week mark, but then exceptions are made in specific cases, like if not the pregnancy is life-threatening to either the mother or the baby, or it is resulting in some significant deformities as such too. So such cases, even in case of rape victims, etc., the Supreme Court can give its order of allowing abortion. So this amendment as such which is being proposed is talking of extending this bar from 20 weeks to 24 weeks. So this bar to allowing abortion up to 24 weeks, this has been proposed because there are many severe abnormalities in the fetus which can be revealed and can be known only post 22 weeks as such. So like, you know, significant abnormalities in the heart, brain, and such vital organs functioning is known later. So that is why this is one proposal in the bill. So this is being lying, you know, without any action being taken for long, and the government, it says, is hesitant on this because it feels that then abortions would be further facilitated. But then there is a need to intervene in this matter to allow the question. Also there is an ethical question too about how much right a woman has on her own body to decide whether she wishes to continue with the pregnancy or she wishes to abort. So that aspect is also there, of course. So here you can see this is the major proposal in the bill. Plus, if beyond 24 weeks also the fetus, if it suffers from substantial abnormalities, then to abortion can be allowed. So this is there. So these are the major provisions as we just discussed about the Medical Termination of Pregnancy Act and the proposal for change to the law which is proposed as such. And this is the present status, the conditions under which beyond 20 weeks the Supreme Court can allow pregnancy to be terminated. So these, even in case of sterilization failure, the abortion is allowed, but then beyond 20 weeks it's only through the order of the court. The next news item is most private hospitals evade tax, CAG. So Comptroller and Auditor General of India, it's given its recent performance audit on Indian private hospitals, and it has shown that majority of the institutions here are evading taxes. So of course CAG does not audit for private hospitals, but since taxation is due to the government, so whether taxation is coming forth to the government or not, that aspect is looked into by CAG. So here the report which it has given, it says that the private sector accounts for 80% of outpatient care and 60% of inpatient care in the country. And in many states, it says that many private hospitals are not filing for income tax as well. And the government has also not taken action against them. So this is the lacunae as such in taxation shown by the government too, which is being highlighted. It says that most private hospitals and practitioners did not submit a valid PAN as well. So this is a important requirement but not being done. In Maharashtra, it says a study of charitable hospital that avails tax exemption. It is seen that it availed unjustified exemptions amounting to 249.66 crores. So this is the data which shows, it says 10 as such, it says that bed occupancy here for them should be at least 10% is mandated for weaker sections, but it was seen that 8 out of 10 beds, bed occupancy in 8 out of 10 hospitals was less than this. So this is the status that even 10% mandatory required in trust hospitals for weaker sections is also not fulfilled. So of course these are prominent hospitals, they don't provide this bed occupancy as well. Then the next news item is CAG reports weakness in missile defense system. So this is regarding India's strategic missile defense system, medium range supersonic surface to air missile system. So this is also known as MRSA, medium range surface to air missile. So these are medium range or long range surface to air missile systems. These have been jointly developed by India and Israel. This is known as Barak 8, if you should know about it. So here the CAG report is highlighting deficiency in quality in these missile systems. It says that 70% of the under-vehicle scanners installed at the Indian Air Force bases are non-functional. And also the IL series of aircrafts which are being used for transport support are also not upgraded and continue to fly with 1985 vintage avionics. We are seeing that IL series aircrafts are now being replaced by the C-130J Hercules. This we just saw in the previous news. So this is also been highlighted by CAG, but there are deficiencies. And for the medium range surface to air missile, this is being developed by Bharat Electricals Limited in India, and showing that the systems which have been delivered are of deficient quality. So this is the status of air defense system of the country as well. It says that of the 20 missiles which were test fired, there are total 80 missiles, 70 were test fired and 30% of these failed the test. So missiles fell short of the target, they had the lower than required velocity, and also there was malfunctioning of critical units. So these aspects have been highlighted by CAG. So if you question that how the defense equipments details are being provided by CAG in its reports and how it is highlighting the loopholes in the defense system in the country, then this is also essential. It's an important function of CAG. If it is something which is highly secretive, because these are deals which have been done in the open. It's not a secret deal which we have had with Israel. So if it's a deal which is done in the open, the entire system is known to be possessed by India, and if it is not of quality, it has to come in the public domain. And the governments have to ensure that at least quality is ensured for defense system in the country. So this is the significance of CAG, an independent constitutional authority which highlights and audits. Actually, all forms of audits are conducted. Performance audit is actually a discretionary power and function of CAG. So of course, it will do auditing with respect to the costs, the accounting and auditing as we know, but then it also does performance audit, and this is an important function which it has undertaken. And this is the details regarding this MRSM India-Israel deal which is being spoken of here, you can see. Then the next news item is scheme for banks not applied as envisaged. Now this is the CAG report on the Indradhanush scheme. So the Indradhanush scheme, which was announced by the government to recapitalize public sector banks. This was announced last year. So in this scheme, it is saying that this was not implemented in the manner as envisaged. So as per the scheme, a portion of the recapitalization was to be based on banks' performance, but this disbursal provision was not followed. It says that the parameters used to determine whether banks required capital changed from year to year. So it kept changing the parameters too, and in some years the rationale for capitalization of banks was not even recorded, that on what basis is the capitalization provided to a particular public sector bank. So this is there. It says that some banks did not qualify additional capital, yet they were given infusion of capital. So this is what it is. I mean, this is one of the provision. Capitalization of banks was one of the 7 points in the 7-point agenda known as Indradhanush scheme for banking. There is another Indradhanush scheme which is for immunization. So both are named Indradhanush, so there is no way that you can distinguish if only Indradhanush scheme or Indradhanush mission is mentioned. Both have the same name, but for what purpose, the context in which the question is asked, you can answer. Of course, in prelims, they'll not ask you what is Indradhanush scheme for and give both options in the 4 options, so that there can be 2 answers. That will never happen with UPSC, so you don't need to worry about such what-if situations. So this is there. There are 2 Indradhanush schemes. So in this Indradhanush scheme, another point which the CAG is speaking of is that in some banks, it was decided that 20 to 25% of capital infusion as such should be done on the basis of performance, but then the asset quality of banks remained poor. So that is why this is how the asset quality review of RBI helped. It gave details about the quality of assets, and most of the public sector banks failed to perform. So without any weightage given to performance as decided earlier, that 20 to 25% should be based on performance, the government has infused capital in these banks. So this is what the CAG is saying. This is the 7-point agenda of Indradhanush. One was appointments, regarding appointments which have to be done to the top posts, CEO, MD posts in public sector banks. Bank board bureau was established to monitor PSU banks and the key performance indicators. Capitalization, overall 70,000 crore was to be infused in banks, 25,000 crore in the initial stage, and then 20,000 crore in the next months as such, 2020. Then De-stressing means speedy project approvals because there are NPAs, non-performing assets. So de-stressing various sectors so that these NPAs can be resolved. So steps need to be taken, projects need to be approved by the government, that aspect. Empowerment of the banks for recruiting their own staff, giving them flexibility. Performance. So, performance will be ensured that performance increases, quality and quantity of assets, stress reduces and quality improves. And reforms. So this is reforms like no political interference and move to reduce pressure on banks would be undertaken. So there are these Gyan Sangams also which take place for banks in which these reforms are also discussed. So this is the Indradhanush scheme, which of course had its lacunae. Then the next news item is Learn from Tagore, MP tells Lok Sabha. So this is Trinamool Congress MP and historian Sugata Bose. She has asked the union government to celebrate Rabindranath Tagore's book, the speech Nationalism, which was provided by him in 1916. So it is completing its centenary year. So this is a proposal being given that government should celebrate this centenary. So this had become a controversy because there were such rumors that Rabindranath Tagore's content from textbooks in schools are being removed by the central government, but then the government clarified that no such step is being taken. So Rabindranath Tagore has been in news, so you should know about him. He is a significant personality and his views on nationalism should be understood. The book is, it is said by Mr. Sugata Bose that his book warned that a narrow definition of nationalism should not be allowed to prevail over human values. So he says that this is specifically significant in the context of mob lynching which is taking place in the country presently. So here the philosopher, poet, teacher, Mr. Rabindranath Tagore, who is the first person from Asia to win Nobel Prize in Literature too. He won the Nobel Prize in Literature in 1913 for his publication Gitanjali. So this is an offering of songs as such. So this is a volume of spiritual poetry by him. He also established the Vishwa Bharati University. So this is at Shanti Niketan in West Bengal. So this talks of cultural cooperation between East and West. This was established. Then other things about him we should know is his political opinion, which has been a little controversial too. So he had opposed the Swadeshi movement, where national clothes made in the nation was to be promoted and foreign goods had to be burnt. So he is actually, Rabindranath Tagore is known to be an internationalist. So he did not take a narrow view of nationalism. So you cannot say that I belong to a particular nation, but you belong to this world and you have to uphold human values. So those were his viewpoints, but that does not mean that he did not believe in freedom from foreign rule. So we'll see all that too. So he had been critical of Mahatma Gandhi. He has written an essay, The Cult of the Charkha, in which he has criticized the Swadeshi movement and this aspect as such. And he said that British rule in India was a political symptom of a social disease. So he emphasized on education, that people have to be educated, have to widen their horizons, understand, and then work for themselves and for the country and the nation and the world as such. So this is what he said, that since we are having a social disease, this political symptom of British rule is present in the country. So one more thing you should know about him, that he renounced his knighthood. He was knighted by the British as such. He renounced his knighthood in 1919 after the Jallianwala Bagh massacre, in which General Dyer had opened fire on an unarmed crowd which had gathered in Jallianwala Bagh here. So this is there in Punjab, Amritsar. Then this is regarding his art contribution too. He is known to have, his songs as such composed by him are revered as Rabindra Sangeet or Tagore's songs. So his style of songs are also influenced by Thumri style of Hindustani music. So this is also there. Then the next news item is Lok Sabha passes bill for more autonomy to IIMs. So Lok Sabha has passed this bill, Indian Institute of Management bill. So this IIM bill is seeking to provide more autonomy to IIMs in the country. There are 20 IIMs presently functioning, but they provide diploma degree, PGDM, that is postgraduate diploma in management. So this diploma should be converted into degree. So it will be allowed to acquire, students can get postgraduate diplomas, degrees rather than diplomas. So if they get degrees, then after that they can become fellows as such too, and further research can also be undertaken in the country, because HRD minister is saying that presently we are seeing, since we are giving diploma course here, degree here, the students go to foreign countries and undertake research. So if we provide them degrees here, then fellows further will also increase in the institutions as such, and we will have researchers researching in the country itself. So this is there. Also, the IIMs have been given the status of institutions of national importance by this bill. This bill has presently been passed by Lok Sabha. It has to be passed by Rajya Sabha and get the assent of the president, and it becomes an act. Also, it is giving autonomy. Earlier, the board as such, which was deciding on the important posts, directors for various IIMs, that was headed by HRD minister himself, but now he has given up his power and giving autonomy, so that a board of governor will be established, which will appoint the director of each IIM. So the search cum selection committee will also be there. So more autonomy is being provided in the appointment of chairpersons and the functioning of IIMs too. They can also have the pay for the directors, flexi pay as such, they can decide that as well. So this is regarding IIMs. The 20 IIMs in the country, it was initiated, IIM institutions were initiated by Jawaharlal Nehru, the first Prime Minister of India, on the recommendation of Planning Commission. So presently they were established as societies registered under Societies Registration Act, but with the passage of this bill, they will get institutions of national importance status. Earlier we had discussed that such a status was given to IIITs, triple ITs. Now this is IIMs. So this is the detail here. You can see IIM Council as such is headed by India, the Ministry of Human Resource Development, the Education Minister, but now this will be changed. Then this is regarding the details of the change too, that how degrees, they can award diplomas, degrees instead of diplomas too. They'll get institutions of national importance status as such too. Second thing, then they will also be having autonomy as such. So this autonomy in having their own directors established, what we just discussed, chairpersons and directors. So this is there. So government role would be minimized here. But they will still remain accountable. CAG will continue to audit the accounts of the IIMs. Then next is Center seeks input on trade, industrial policies, services. So Commerce Minister Ms. Nirmala Sitharaman, she has asked academic institutions to give details regarding 3 topics. One is foreign trade policy review of the country. So FTP 2015 to 20, a review should be provided for it. So a new FTP can be finalized, which is due to be announced in September. Then second, she is asking for proposed revamp of manufacturing and industrial policies of the country. So details regarding this also from academics, and also the proposal which we have placed before WTO, Trade Facilitation Services. So details regarding this should be provided by the academic institutions, as such students as well as faculties, as soon as possible. So this is what she is calling for. Manufacturing industrial policies also have to be revamped to bring it closer to services, because what we are seeing presently is Industrial Revolution 4. So what is this Industrial Revolution 4.0? You should know. Actually, the manufacturing policy as such which we have adopted, it calls for increasing the contribution of manufacturing sector in country's GDP to 25% by 2020. Presently, contribution is 16% of GDP. More than 50% is from services. Then comes manufacturing, and of course, least is agriculture. So Industrial Revolution 4. What is this? You should understand. This is the details provided here. The first industrial revolution as such was mechanization, when steam power was discovered as such. So this is mechanization which started first industrial revolution, or the industrial revolution which we understand. Second stage in industrial revolution was when mass production was possible, assembly line was possible. So this is second stage. Third stage which came with computerization and automation. So this is a third stage of industrial revolution. And now the fourth stage which we are entering into is cyber physical systems, as it says here. Means the machines themselves are interconnected through Wi-Fi. You can see the symbols here. So Internet of Things, as we know about too. So machines can interact with each other. People, things can interact with each other, and things can be done in a more streamlined manner. So this automation as such, what we understand, Internet of Things, is Industrial Revolution 4. So this is happening as such, and we also need to improvise ourselves in these fields, Internet of Things, that how will it impact India's manufacturing and services growth. So artificial intelligence, robotics, these are areas which have to be incorporated into the policy. So this is there. So she says that this will bring manufacturing and services closer. And the third thing which she is talking of is Trade Facilitation and Services Agreement. So you should know about this too. This is an agreement which India has proposed on the lines of trade facilitation in goods, which is for customs, easing the custom norms as such. The most recently WTO passed a WTO agreement which came into effect on 22 Feb 2017 all across the globe as such for all WTO members. So trade facilitation and services, she says, India says, is on the same lines. We have proposed this as WTO and we want it to be adopted by all nations and passed, so that it also is an agreement which comes into effect. So this is, she's talking of, India is saying that this is for short-term work and across border movement of skilled workers, foreign professional workers should be facilitated, means visa norms etc. should be eased. This is not for permanent settlement but for short-term work. So this is what India is also demanding for, and we also say that this is no new area of trade which has been opened up, but whatever is allowed has to be further facilitated. Like how trade facilitation in goods was not for opening up new area for trade in goods, but custom norms should be facilitated, because that created a hindrance. Though trade was allowed, but since in developing countries there was too much of red tapeism etc., it resulted in trade not being facilitated. So custom norms easing was trade facilitation in goods, and now easy cross-border movement for temporary skilled workers is what India wants as an agreement passed. So this is the detail regarding that also provided here. So we want this to be taken up at the WTO ministerial meet, which is due in December 2017. So you will keep hearing about this trade facilitation and services. Then next is regulators shouldn't restrain innovation. So this is actually the statement given by Niti Aayog CEO, Mr. Amitabh Kant. So this is saying that regulators in the country, especially in the financial sector, the 4 regulators which we have, that is RBI, SEBI, then IRDAI, Insurance Regulation, and Pension Fund Regulatory and Development Authority. These 4 specific financial regulators, it is saying to them that they should stop hindering ideas in the financial technology sector, and they should adopt this regulatory sandbox approach. So what is this regulatory standoff? That startups, some experiment which is going on, or some new initiative which is being taken, innovative product or a service launch. So for such cases, an experimental oversight mechanism should be there. They should not stringently, try to oversee it, but regulation should be lenient than the present regulation. So this experiment should be there only for a limited period of time, and on a limited scale it should be allowed. So the startups can function as such in real markets for a limited amount of time, and based on the experiences in this experiment as such, and during this regulatory sandbox, the regulator can also decide about how this area needs to be regulated and what should be the norms. So that is what is being proposed by the Niti Aayog CEO, Mr. Amitabh Kant as such. So this is there. He says that there are over 600 startups in the country in financial technology space, and many of them are in peer-to-peer lending. So how does this work? The financial regulators have to allow them to function under this experimental regulatory sandbox. Also, another thing is speaking of is bitcoins. Of course. So this is bitcoins. Of course, there have been concerns raised by the government too. RBI has been warning since 2013 that users should be aware of the risks involved with bitcoins, and the finance ministry is also studying how regulation should be there for virtual currencies. So that is also one aspect. There are many startups on that too, and such regulatory sandboxes have actually been introduced in various countries like UK, Singapore, Australia, Malaysia, and UAE. So this can be adopted by India as well, is his suggestion. This is shown. You give them guidance, monitoring, a test phase is initiated, and the indication comes from how regulation should be there for this area as such. And they are of course exempted from specific regulatory requirements. So that is the lenient regulation as such, exemption also provided. Then the next news item is scientists set sail to unlock secrets of lost continent. So this is regarding the lost continent Zealandia. So this has been in news earlier too. We have also discussed it. So this is an underwater landmass east of Australia, and it has never been properly studied, and researchers say that it should be declared as a new landmass. You can see this is the Australian continent, this is the New Zealand, the country, and this is the whole continent which lies underwater. It says 96% of it is underwater, 94%. So its area is around 5 million square meters. So this is a country, New Caledonia lies here. So here, this has to be declared as a separate continent is also what the researchers are making a case for. They say that all distinct geological identity which should be there, criteria which should be there, that an area can be called a continent, are fulfilled here. It has an elevation above the surrounding areas. It has distinctive geology. It has well-defined area. Also, its crust is much thicker than the ocean floor. So, continental crust has to be thicker. So, it is a continent for all purposes. And a research has also been undertaken. A drill ship is recovering sediments and rocks lying deep beneath the seabed here to discover how this region has behaved over the past millions of years. So, this is Zealandia, a new continent proposed. The next is building block of life found on Saturn's moon Titan. So you should know about the Cassini-Huygens mission. This was actually an unmanned spacecraft mission to Saturn. So this was a joint mission of NASA, European Space Agency and Italian Space Agency. So they had sent two things, Cassini and Huygens. So Cassini was actually the orbiter and Huygens was a lander which landed on Saturn's moon Titan. So this Cassini entered into its orbit around the Saturn in 2004, and in 2005 Titan landed on Huygens landed on Saturn's moon Titan. So this, since then Titan mission ended, it successfully returned to the earth as such, but then Cassini continues to orbit. It is going to end its mission soon in 2017. So still it is providing images. The radar images which came in 2006 showed that there were lakes of liquid hydrocarbon, that is methane, like hydrocarbons like methane and ethane, in Titan's northern latitudes. So this was the first discovery of lakes existing anywhere besides Earth. So such discoveries were made. This came in 2006 as such. Then also further studies continue as such, which is provided. Then later Cassini is going to dive into Saturn's atmosphere and intentionally destroy itself. Otherwise, it may also contaminate Saturn's moons, etc. So the fuel supply is dwindling and it will end its mission soon. So this September 2017 mission end is also due. So again, Cassini-Huygens is going to be in news. Presently, the news part as such is that important building blocks of life have also been found in upper atmosphere of Saturn's largest moon, Titan. So the Cassini mission's data which has been provided, the scientists have seen that there are these negatively charged molecules called carbon chain anions which are present in Titan's atmosphere. So they are highly reactive actually, and scientists are surprised at how they can last long, because they cannot last long as such. They are highly reactive. So this is what has been found. And the last news item is slug slime inspires a new kind of surgical glue. So this scientists have developed an experimental surgical glue which can work in watery conditions also, just like slugs. These animals, they use slime to glide on and also use an extremely adhesive mucus as a defense mechanism also. So inspired by them, scientists are also developing such surgical glues which can be used as alternative to sutures and staples used for closing wounds. And also for deep wounds, injections of these surgical glue can be used. So this is what they are working on. So this is in news. So these are the news items. Thank you.